This is dispatches from r/wedding shaming, the subreddit where a single matching pair of Spanx is considered a load-bearing emotional commitment, and the phrase, quote, "It is my day," end quote, is a war cry older than the Maccabees. I read 100 posts, so you do not have to. I emerged changed. I emerged with a full and deeply earned understanding of why approximately 40% of American women lose their minds for a 12-month period between the proposal and the honeymoon, and why the other 60% marry. At some point, a mother-in-law who owns exactly one dress and intends to wear it to your wedding.
Oh, baby. Oh, baby. Wedding drama. We are coming in hot.
An entire industry worth $70 billion annually in the United States alone, built on the premise that two people who have known each other for 3 years require $12,000 of peonies to feel legitimate.
A brief historical note on the American wedding. In 1958, the average American wedding cost $600. In 2024, the average American wedding costs $33,000. The marriage itself has not, as a matter of legal record, become one single dollar more binding. You have simply been sold a peony.
A peony.
The peony is a flower. The peony costs $48 a stem. The peony is, in the modern American wedding, the smallest unit of psychological breakdown.
Tonight, 5 letters. 5 women who said yes to the dress and lived to regret the entire infrastructure surrounding the dress. We begin, as we must, with a mother-in-law. Letter the first. R/just no mill. The title, quote, "My mill wore her own wedding dress to my wedding. She said it still fits," end quote.
Her own wedding dress.
I want every woman listening to this to consider, for one single moment, the level of premeditation required for a woman to pull a garment bag out of a closet, look at it, and think, quote, "Yes, this is the move," end quote.
Our author writes, quote, "My mill, Deborah, was married in 1987. She has kept her wedding dress in her closet for 37 years. It is a full-skirted ivory ball gown with sleeves you can see from space. I have seen it in photographs," end quote.
Sleeves you can see from space.
1987 wedding sleeves are not sleeves. They are weather systems. They are a shelf on which the entire rest of the dress is balanced.
Quote, "I specifically said to Deborah in a text message, quote, 'Please do not wear white,' end quote. Deborah texted back, quote, 'Of course not, honey,' end quote.
Of course not, honey.
The single most chilling 3-word response ever typed by a woman over the age of 60 to any text message she ever received. Deborah was already holding the dress.
Quote, "Deborah arrived at the venue 40 minutes before the ceremony. Deborah was wearing an ivory ball gown, a full skirt, the sleeves. It was her wedding dress. She had taken it out of the garment bag that morning," end quote.
She arrived in it.
Deborah is not a guest. Deborah is the antagonist of the film.
Quote, "I was in the bridal suite. My maid of honor came in and said, quote, 'Something is wrong,' end quote. She would not tell me. My mother came in. My mother said, quote, 'Honey, Deborah is wearing a dress,' end quote. I said, quote, 'Her dress,' end quote, end quote."
Her dress.
A 2-syllable sentence that contained, in that specific conference of women, more information than an 18-page divorce filing.
Quote, "I walked out of the suite. I walked into the venue. I saw Deborah. Deborah put her hands in the air and said, quote, 'Surprise, it still fits,' end quote, end quote."
Surprise, it still fits.
A single woman in broad daylight at the wedding of her son in the year of our Lord 22,004 used the phrase, quote, "Surprise, it still fits," end quote, as an excuse, and history will rightly condemn her.
Quote, "I told my fiancé. My fiancé asked her to change. Deborah said, quote, I did not bring a change of clothes. End quote.
I did not bring a change of clothes.
Deborah is a woman who has planned every single element of this event with the precision of a NASA engineer. Deborah did not forget a change of clothes. Deborah made a strategic decision not to own one.
Quote, my fiancé drove Deborah to the nearest Macy's. My fiancé, in a tuxedo, bought his mother a navy cocktail dress, and she changed in the car on the way back. She was still wearing the white heels, the white shoes, the white earrings, the white everything except for the dress. It was, I want to be clear, the most ivory navy cocktail dress I have ever seen in my life. End quote.
The most ivory, navy, cocktail dress she had ever seen.
Deborah is, at this point, wearing a wedding, just not, technically, a wedding dress.
Our author's closing line, quote, the photos from the wedding are beautiful. Deborah is not in any of them. My photographer was warned. End quote.
The photographer was warned.
The single most efficient form of revenge in the history of the documentary photograph. Deborah was present, but Deborah was not, in the end, there.
Letter the second, r/bridezillas. The title, quote, my cousin made us sign a bridesmaid contract with a wait clause. End quote.
A wait clause.
An American woman has legally drafted a document establishing, as a contractual precondition of attending her nuptials, the body mass of her family members.
Our author writes, quote, my cousin Whitney asked me to be a bridesmaid at her wedding. The wedding was planned for June of next year. In January, Whitney sent all 8 bridesmaids a PDF. The PDF was titled, quote, bridesmaid agreement, end quote. Whitney had formatted it herself. It was in Comic Sans, end quote.
It was in Comic Sans.
The single most revealing font in the entire history of typography. Every unreasonable contract in the American economy is, secretly, in Comic Sans.
Quote, the contract had 12 clauses. Clause 3 said, quote, all bridesmaids agreed to maintain their current dress size or smaller for the duration of the engagement. Weigh-ins will be conducted at fittings in April and May. Bridesmaids who do not maintain size will be demoted to house guests. End quote. End quote.
Demoted to house guests.
Whitney has invented a new caste system. The house guest in Whitney's personal civilization is a person whose body has failed her standards. Whitney should be tried in The Hague.
Quote, Clause 7 said, quote, bridesmaids agree to refrain from cutting their hair during the engagement without the bride's prior written approval, end quote. Clause 8 said, quote, no pregnancies, end quote.
No pregnancies.
Whitney has banned, by contract, an act of biology. Whitney is suing God. Whitney is suing every individual fallopian tube in her immediate family.
Quote, Clause 12 said, quote, by signing this document, the bridesmaid agrees that the bride's decisions are final and may not be questioned on any group chat, including the bachelorette planning chat. End quote.
The bachelorette planning chat.
Whitney has anticipated dissent. Whitney has preemptively muted the group chat. Whitney is a 5th century Byzantine empress.
Quote, I replied, quote, Whitney, I am not signing this. End quote. Whitney removed me from the wedding party that afternoon. Whitney sent a follow-up text that said, quote, I hope you find a wedding where you belong. End quote. End quote.
A wedding where you belong.
A phrase used in the historical record exclusively by the people who should not be invited to anything.
Quote, the update 3 of the other 7 bridesmaids signed the contract. 2 of them are now out of the wedding because they gained weight. One of them is out because she got engaged herself. Whitney said, quote, you stole my moment, end quote. There are now 2 bridesmaids left. One is Whitney's little sister, who is 12, end quote.
The last one is 12.
Whitney's wedding has been reduced through sheer force of her own personality, to a single pre-adolescent child, holding a bouquet of peonies in Comic Sans.
Letter the third, r/wedding shaming. The title, quote, my sister proposed to her boyfriend during the toasts at my wedding, end quote.
During the toasts.
The precise midpoint of the wedding reception, the window between the salad course and the first dance, the single most protected real estate on earth.
Our author writes, quote, I have a younger sister, Vanessa. Vanessa has been with her boyfriend, Mason, for 4 years. Vanessa has been, and I cannot stress this enough, very vocal about the fact that Mason has not proposed. Vanessa mentions it at every family gathering, end quote.
Every family gathering.
Vanessa is a trebuchet, and Mason's unwillingness to propose is the 30,000-pound projectile she has been loading for 48 months.
Quote, I had my wedding in September. The ceremony was beautiful. The reception was going well. During the toasts after my maid of honor gave her speech, Vanessa walked up to the microphone. Vanessa was not on the toast list. Vanessa took the microphone, end quote.
She was not on the toast list.
The single most important unwritten rule of the American wedding reception. If you were not on the toast list, you were, by tradition and by common law, not supposed to speak.
Quote, Vanessa raised her glass. Vanessa said, quote, I just want to say how beautiful this all is, and how I hope one day to have something like this. And Mason, get up here, end quote. Mason looked around. Mason stood up. Vanessa walked over. And reader, Vanessa got on one knee, end quote.
ON 1 KNEE.
Vanessa has commandeered a stranger's wedding to execute a proposal of her own, with a man who, based on his face in this moment, has not been consulted about any part of this plan.
Quote, Vanessa pulled a ring out of her bra, an engagement ring. Vanessa had brought an engagement ring to my wedding. Vanessa said, quote, Mason, will you marry me? End quote. Mason said, quote, right now, end quote. Vanessa said, quote, yes, right now, end quote. Mason said, quote, Vanessa, this is your sister's wedding, end quote. Vanessa said, quote, I know, I want to share it with her, end quote.
I want to share it with her.
The 4 most violent words ever spoken in a reception hall. Vanessa is not sharing. Vanessa is annexing. Vanessa is declaring a protectorate over her sister's wedding.
Quote, Mason said, no. Mason said, quote, I love you, but we are not doing this here, end quote. Vanessa started crying. Vanessa kept the ring raised. Vanessa said, quote, Mason, do not humiliate me, end quote. Mason said, quote, you are humiliating both of us, end quote. My DJ, to his eternal credit, started playing Dancing Queen, end quote.
Dancing Queen.
The single most important cultural worker in the American wedding reception is the DJ, who, at this moment, has saved an entire family from the consequences of Vanessa.
Quote, Vanessa left the reception. Vanessa blocked me on Instagram. Vanessa told our mother I had stolen her proposal. Our mother said, quote, Vanessa, you did that in front of 140 people at your sister's wedding without asking anyone, end quote. Vanessa is not speaking to our mother either, end quote.
Stolen her proposal.
The defining delusion of the American family drama. Everyone is always, somehow, the victim of the person they were in the process of attacking.
Letter the fourth, r/just-no-mill. The title, quote, my mill brought my husband's father's ashes to our wedding in an urn with a ribbon, end quote.
With a ribbon.
The ribbon is, in almost every historical account, the part that makes it real.
Our author writes, quote, my husband's father passed away 8 years ago. My husband loved his father. My husband would have wanted his father at the wedding. We discussed this. We decided that we would have a photo of his father on a memorial table near the entrance. With a candle. Classy. End quote.
With a candle. Classy.
The memorial table, a solemn and dignified and deeply traditional part of the American wedding reception, which is about to be completely hijacked in approximately 11 seconds.
Quote, my Mill Patricia arrived at the venue. Patricia was carrying a handbag. Inside the handbag was a decorative urn. The urn had a pink ribbon tied around it. The ribbon was, quote, because pink was his favorite color, end quote, according to Patricia, end quote.
Pink was his favorite color.
A piece of information that has been, up to this moment, known only to Patricia, and which now must become the permanent psychological property of every single wedding guest in attendance.
Quote, Patricia walked up to the memorial table. Patricia moved the framed photo of her late husband to the side. Patricia put the urn in the center. Patricia said, quote, Ronald deserves to be here in person, end quote. And
Ronald deserves to be here in person.
Patricia is the only person, alive or otherwise, who believes that a decorative urn constitutes an attendance. Patricia is running her own parallel theology.
quote, during the ceremony, Patricia placed the urn on the chair next to her. The urn had its own chair. Our wedding coordinator had to find an extra chair. She took it from the head table, end quote.
The urn had a chair.
Ronald, who has been deceased for 8 years, has now been seated in a Chiavari chair in the front row, next to his widow, against every possible wedding etiquette ever recorded in any book.
Quote, during the reception, Patricia took the urn to the dance floor. Patricia slow danced with the urn. Patricia cried. The DJ played The Way You Look Tonight. My photographer took, and I am not making this up, 900 photographs of this. End quote.
She slow danced with the urn.
A photograph that, in the year 2040, is going to be worth, on the international wedding history market, approximately $11 million.
Quote, during the cake cutting, Patricia attempted to feed cake to the urn. The cake went on the marble, the cake went on the ribbon, the cake went into the lid was not on tight. The cake went into the urn, end quote.
The cake went into the urn.
At this exact moment, in the universe of every single wedding ever held, a line was crossed. Ronald, for the record, has now been mixed, physically, with a slice of vanilla buttercream. He will be remembered.
Quote, Patricia was horrified. Patricia said, quote, Ronald hated cake, end quote. My husband, who up to this point had been patient, said, quote, Mom, he hated a lot of things. That is why we put him in an urn, end quote, end quote.
That is why we put him in an urn.
The single funniest sentence ever spoken at a wedding reception in the state of Pennsylvania. The groom has, with one line, won the entire day.
Letter the fifth, and the kicker, r/Bridezillas. The title, quote, after my cousin's destination wedding, she sent me an itemized invoice for $1,847, end quote.
Anmitized invoice.
A document that, in the American household, has never, not once, arrived in service of anything kind.
Our author writes, quote, my cousin Ashley got married in Tulum, Mexico in February. Ashley invited about 40 people. The wedding itself was okay. The ceremony was on a beach. The reception was at a resort. I flew down. I paid for my own flight, my own hotel, my own meals, and I bought Ashley a cast iron Dutch oven off her registry. End quote.
A cast iron Dutch oven.
The correct gift in every historical record ever assembled for any couple who chose to get married more than 1,000 miles from their families of origin.
Quote, 3 weeks after the wedding, I received an envelope in the mail. Inside was a single sheet of paper. The paper was titled, in large bold calibri, quote, guest contribution e-voice, end quote. My name was at the top, end quote.
Guest contribution invoice.
The single most illegal phrase, in the spirit if not the letter, ever typed into a Google Doc. A guest does not contribute. A guest arrives, a guest dances, a guest leaves.
Quote, the invoice headline items. Flower arch, per guest allocation, $412. Welcome bag, $87. Reception chair rental, $90. Photographer allocation, $400. The DJ, $250. The dress, $450. End quote.
The dress, $450.
Ashley is now charging her own guests for the dress that Ashley herself wore to her own wedding. This is, legally, not a wedding. This is a timeshare.
Quote, the total, at the bottom, was $1,847. Ashley had helpfully included a Venmo QR code. There was a handwritten note in the margin that said, quote, I hope you understand Aunt Linda said everyone has to chip in. End quote.
Aunt Linda said.
Every catastrophic decision in the history of an American family is eventually attributed, in writing, to an Aunt Linda who cannot be reached for comment.
Quote, I texted Ashley. I said, quote, Ashley, this is not how weddings work. End quote. Ashley said, quote, it is how my wedding works. I told everyone the budget up front. If you did not want to contribute, you should not have come. End quote. I said, quote, Ashley, you did not tell anyone the budget up front. End quote. Ashley said, quote, well, I told Aunt Linda. End quote.
I told Aunt Linda.
Aunt Linda is, at this point, bearing the full weight of the entire extended family's communications infrastructure. Aunt Linda did not sign up for this. Aunt Linda is in a book club.
Quote, I did not pay the invoice. Nobody paid the invoice. The total amount Ashley received via Venmo from her guests was, as I understand it, $40. It came from Aunt Linda with a note that said, quote, I am so sorry, sweetheart. End quote.
I am so sorry, sweetheart.
The single most dignified $40 Venmo ever sent in the history of the platform. Aunt Linda has saved the entire family's honor. Aunt Linda deserves a medal.
5 letters, 5 weddings. Deborah in her dress, Whitney with her clauses, Vanessa with her ring, Ashley with her invoice. 5 women who, in service of a single day, violated every unwritten rule of human gathering ever recorded, and then to a woman turned to Reddit at 3 a.m. to ask, quote, am I the asshole? End quote.
Am I the asshole?
The single most common and least serious question ever asked of the internet. They know. They know. They always know. They are asking because they know.
Here is the truth nobody will tell you about a wedding. The wedding is not about love. The wedding has not been about love for approximately 70 years. The wedding is about the 12 people standing closest to you at the moment of the first dance, and the single question held in each of their hearts of whether you are the kind of person they want to be related to for the rest of time. The flowers are a distraction. The cake is a bribe. The dress is a costume. The real wedding is the vote.
The real wedding is the vote.
A fact that if it were printed in every wedding magazine on Earth would wipe out the entire $33,000 American wedding inside a single season.
This has been dispatches from r/wedding shaming. I remain your correspondent. Do not wear white. Do not propose. Do not hand out invoices. Do not bring the urn. And for the love of God, do not make your 12-year-old cousin your last remaining bridesmaid. It is not a wedding at that point. It is a hostage situation with a centerpiece.
A hostage situation with a centerpiece.
And always, always send Aunt Linda a thank you card.